right. So improving lead conversion with authenticity with Jessie Beaudoin from Call Action.
Nice.
And for those of you who don't know Jessie, Jessie's one of the most kindest, humblest, brilliant people in the industry that you'll ever meet. Super kind, super giving. And that's why he is now admin moderator into our Lab Code Agents group. So thank you, bro. I really appreciate you as a person and as somebody who's always leading the industry.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You make me blush like your beanie. Like
I love it. At least we're the same color now. So let's get right into it, man. You just went to a traffic and conversion event in San Diego, and you had some of the top marketers from across the world there. And you got to listen to them. And what was the one thing that stood out from them that correlates with what we're talking about today?
Sure. Well, you know, at the end of the day, basically it comes down to storytelling, right? Because storytelling creates and captures our attention and our imagination. And stories, they need to feel authentic at the end of the day, right? Because we're all tuned in to one radio station. What's in it for me? So we're going to listen to a story because what happens is that we can relate to it, and we want an outcome that we can relate to that story. And I think that that's like something that sometimes is missed, is that we need to tell good stories to bring that person in, to engage that particular person so that they feel that they get a benefit out of it. Because why do we watch movies? It's like we watch scary movies because we have an idea what's going to happen at the end, that we want to be sucked in and we want that emotional journey. Why do we watch comedies? Because, you know, I know ahead of time, I kind of want to laugh, right? So from a business point of view, someone pays attention to you as you're going to tell a story that hopefully it correlates to the outcome that they're looking for in their lives, right? So the more that we could tell stories, and it doesn't necessarily mean once upon a time, but a story that they can relate to that's going to get them to where they want to be, because that's why they start listening. They're in a position, they're in A, and what they want to do is they want to get to a certain destination, which is B. And so when you introduce your story, they need to understand at the very beginning that, like, I'm going to listen to this story because it's going to get me closer to my destination B, in our case, home ownership, right? Or selling. Either one.
All right. So I have a question for you here.
Sure.
In that process of converting a lead through the storytelling, which creates a sense of authenticity from us as a salespeople, when the lead comes through, it's always a challenge for agents to hold back and not go for the close or the appointment.
Right.
Hey, Sandy, just had to say hi to Sandy. Can you go over with us a process that you think is a more beneficial process for us, conversation-wise, that you can integrate a story in? And let's just assume it's an online lead because we get a lot of leads. Okay.
Well, and so part of that story, this is kind of what I believe. So first and foremost, what we need to do is we need to be very cognizant of where the lead came from, right? Because there's a journey of that person that they took to even get to that point of becoming an inquiry, okay? And it's still a real person at the other end. So if it is a Facebook lead versus a Zillow lead versus a personal IDX website, they had a certain journey that they took to get there. And so what happens is in that journey, that's their personal story, right? And we already know what the outcome is, why they made that inquiry. So what we need to focus is being aware of where the inquiry came from so that we can continue the story that they already started writing. So if the lead basically comes in as something that is very hard, like a really high intent, right? So maybe it's a Zillow lead wanting to see a very specific property. A lot of times what we're doing is that we're not reinforcing or continuing the story that they already started. We say, hey, are you interested in buying a house? That's very generic, right? So they already could read through the fact that we're not actively listening or aware of where the inquiry even came from,
Got it.
right? Because you're not continuing their story arc. So what happens is all of a sudden you're saying the same thing that they've already heard from everybody else. So if you know that a lead came in from a specific property in a specific price range, what the authenticity or the authentic communication is, just imagine if you took 1 second to look at the picture of the property before you made the outbound phone call, and maybe the conversation is a little bit different and it says something like, hey, I saw that you inquired about this beautiful, 2-story Mediterranean property. Do you want to try and schedule that showing in that? Now think of what that person feels versus, you inquired about a house. When's a good time for us to see that? Right? All we did is we added 3 or 4 more extra words. We set the scene in their mind of what they're trying to accomplish, which is their vision, right? This is their goal, is the 2-bedroom or 2-story Mediterranean, so on and so forth in Westlake Village, right? So if you open your dialogue, your communication with that, you're automatically creating more connection because you're sucking them into their story. You start participating into that story with that particular person.
Okay.
So small tweaks in the languaging go a really long way.
While you're talking, I want the audience to think of situations or maybe clients that they get, past clients, Spheres Open House. How can we engage in certain people? Give me, for the audience, ask some questions as to the type of clients that you're looking to engage a lot more, so then we can ask those of Jessie. But Jessie, I agree with you, dude. I think too many times we've been taught by the current coaching that's out there, or the current sales style or closing style,
right,
to go more directly into an actual appointment or for the close.
Correct.
And I forget to tell that story so that we're able to connect with them. So you're saying if somebody comes in online and they come in looking for a townhome in Westlake Village, you want me to say, hey, look, what attracted you to this townhome that's located in this great park for families? Or did you take a look at the kitchen that's like kind of Spanish style? Did that capture your attention? What was it? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, 100%, because that's what's going to get them talking. And what happens is we need to basically listen more than we speak, right?
Oh, wow.
What that basically does, if we know, our famous NAR studies and a bunch of other things, we know that there's 3 major components that they look for in a real estate agent. We look for someone that seems trustworthy, that is responsive, and knowledgeable. Okay. So if we think of just those 3 things, the top 3 things that they want to talk about, if I simply address them with very directly with what their original inquiry was, or continuing their story that they created for themselves of this specific property, what have I done when I reference the property itself and I talk about the details? Right? It makes me seem that I'm knowledgeable, that I'm paying attention, that I'm empathetic, that I'm trustworthy, because now I'm continuing that person's story. And you're doing that in one phrase right at the very beginning, and that captures the attention, because we need to interrupt the pattern of what they're hearing from everybody else, because everybody else is looking at inquiries or online leads, and many people are cynical before they even get started, right? So they already have a crappy attitude. They go, oh, another online lead, probably not going to be interested. Like, hey, are you interested in buying a house? And like, that's the conversation. And people can feel that through the phone really, really easily. But when you do like what you just said, hey, this condo, I'm taking a look at it here. Beautiful, modern style, looks like, updated kitchen. Is that the thing that was important to you? What attracted you to this property? Now, guess what's going to happen is they're going to start telling you about their journey that they've gone through and maybe what's been frustrating them. And now basically, as you get them to kind of start opening up, you already did a pattern interrupt in the sales process from the very beginning, and you're going straight into rapport building, because people are not going to buy from you until they have rapport. Right? Once I have rapport, they're going to give us the time to have a longer conversation. The longer the conversation, the more that you can show your knowledge.
Yeah.
It just flows very, very naturally.
I would say I agree with you, man. I just posted up a question there if you guys can answer it. It's I gave you three options. I mean, they're not the greatest options except for one. But, what's the one way to increase your lead conversion? I put telling stories, listening, confidence. Just want to know what you guys think, what you choose. Go ahead and choose some. So far, listening is winning. But Jesse, I was listening to you right now. Listening, and I actually thought of something which I didn't really think of before, and that was when we're doing these Facebook Lives,
Mm-hmm.
and we're at a home, because most agents are in front of a home looking at the
Right.
camera, doing whether it's an open house or a new listing they just got, and they're saying, hey, I'm at 123 Palm Street, and check out my new listing. It's amazing. It's got an amazing kitchen. I'm thinking more of a strategy now with what you just told me, of telling a little bit of a story with
Right.
that relates the actual owners of why they chose this place
Mm-hmm.
and why it's important to them and how they ended up buying the home. So instead of telling that whole story, it's going to be, hey, everyone, I'm here in Malibu, and let me tell you a little story about this home.
Right.
These great clients of mine, they ended up picking this home 13 years ago, and they moved from France to here because of, and then now you're engaging people. Dude, I just thought of this as you were telling me, and I
Yep.
love that you just brought that to my brain. So thank you.
Right. Right.
That's a
And
different approach.
And imagine, again, doing that kind of presentation or of Facebook Live, you know, telling the story of the current owners or what you kind of picture. When you look at a piece of property, you probably already have an idea of the kind of person that is going to move in there, that demographic, right?
Yeah,
Imagine if you just create the entire story around it,
dude.
right? Now you're all of a
I
sudden,
love
like, let's say it's a, hip loft kind of thing. So now it'd be really easy. It's like, hey, I'm here at this great loft. I can imagine like this young hipster kind of couple that,
it.
likes to walk their
I love
dog. They
that you
got
chose hipster.
bulldogs, you know, and go, let me tell you a little bit about the home. Right. And so now if that person can relate in their mind, like hey, that's the demo that I am. Like I'm the
Wow.
hipster dude that has a bulldog and walking, like to walk the neighborhood basically. That all of a sudden becomes really easy. Or let's say it's a nice secluded giant family home kind of estate. It's like, wow, I just pulled up at this property and I could just imagine being, a high profile business owner that, works really hard and just wants to come home to a property that makes him feel like it's a sanctuary. This is kind of where we're holding this open house today. And all of a sudden, like you said, it just creates that engagement directly. At traffic and conversion, I'll bring this kind of up because we were chit-chatting a little bit about it. If you listen to music, and especially stuff like country songs or something like that, the opening verse sets the scene, right? What is about to happen, or it identifies and it creates an immediate connection, usually in just one or two sentences, and what we need to do is do something very similar to that, I believe, when you're having that initial conversation with them. So if
Dude,
it's a Facebook Live, you can kind of present it that way. If you understand where the lead came from or the inquiry's coming from, that makes it really easy to kind of continue that journey because you can already relate to stuff that has already taken place. So maybe they're on Zillow and that they're kind of one in two places in Zillow. They're either at the very bottom of the funnel and they're going to look at 8 to 10 homes and they're going to buy the one of those 10 homes, or they're really up funnel and it's still an aspirational phrase. They're just aspirationally searching and kind of kicking tires, and you'll be able to kind of know that right away. We talk about the funnel as being ART, right? A-R-T, aspirational, research, and transactional. Okay.
can you repeat that?
ART. So closing is ART, basically. You're going to walk them from aspirational to research to transactional. And when you start to develop your stories or your narrative, when you understand where the lead came from and you think of where they are in that sliver, it's easy to pick up the conversation or continue the story that they're on based on that phase. And you find out what that phase is by understanding the intent of where they came from. And also basically, what was the journey that they got there? And then asking just, some very good questions at the beginning, and then just being quiet and let them talk about themselves.
All right. So closing is an art, but you said aspirational. What was the next one?
Research and transactional. So if you think of a triangle, top sliver, the top of the funnel is aspirational, right? This is where they're just kind of like, oh, I think I might be interested in buying a home, or they download the Zillow app and they're looking at every property everywhere that you can imagine, right? You haven't filtered down that search yet. The next part, they'll be in research phase. And this is where they've got they talk to their friends, they got past aspirational. Now they're starting to convince themselves that they want to do something. So they start calculating mortgage payments, checking their credit, trying to discover, can I actually purchase? And so there's different stories or narratives that are happening at that moment in time. And so if you understand that they're in that position, you can help them walk through that story. Because when they participate in your story, what happens? They get taken away, right? When we go to a movie and we get really into that movie, what do? We forget about everything else and we're just in that moment.
Yep.
And as a salesperson, what are we trying to do? We're trying to get them to forget about everybody else, make them feel like they're the only person in our lives at that moment in time, so that we can basically serve them and provide them service. And so you have to make them feel that way. So as you tell that story and you continue those stories, that's where now all of a sudden you feel authentic to them, because you're actively listening. You understand where they're at, and they'll give you the chance at that moment to show your knowledge, right? Once you show your knowledge, that reinforces trust. And now basically it just is a beautiful cycle, kind of going down that path thereafter. So
would you say that the part that creates the authenticity is you listening? Is that what you would say?
I would say it's listening and asking the correct question, understanding the intent of kind of how they got to where they're at.
Okay.
Right. And then basically being able to kind of walk them through. Right.
So can you
imagine it this way. Maybe, and this is an extreme example. Okay. Let's say you are deathly sick, right? You have maybe cancer.
Okay.
You're at the oncology center. Imagine now if the doctor walked in and say, hey, how you doing today? Like, you're going to kind of tell them how maybe you feel, but if they're misdiagnosing you right from the very beginning, like if they're not jumping into like, I understand where you're at in the journey, how's your health been on the way here, so on and so forth. Like if that guy wasn't keyed into why I'm in his room at that moment in time,
mm-hmm.
Would you trust that doctor?
Mm-mm.
Instantly, right? You already phased him out before you even got started.
If he's asking me, if he doesn't ask me questions, right? Like you said at the very beginning, if he's not asking me the right questions, I'm not going to trust him. He's just go
exactly. Right. Now, maybe we might have inherent trust because we go, oh, he's an MD. I know he went to doctors, and that's what's different than, let's say, a real estate agent. People don't trust us to begin with. So we're going to give a lot more latitude to any licensed long-term professional that has gone to extended schooling, attorneys and things like that, because a lot of times, again, we don't understand it. We have maybe some vague ideas, but if I opened up trying to fight a traffic ticket and the guy is telling me, trying to talk to me about bankruptcy, like that is like we're diametrically opposed at that moment in time. Yeah. And that's because I know that he didn't pay attention to my journey before I got there. Right?
All right. That makes sense. I agree with you.
If you have a script that you're using and every inquiry is the same, regardless of where it came from, and you're treating them all of the same, and you can't connect right there instantly in those first kind of one or two little touch points, what's that person going to do? You don't have trust at that moment. You have to earn that trust. And the way that you earn that trust is by being actively listening and letting them know that you paid attention right from the very beginning and that you are relatable to them. And that authenticity is what's going to help you skyrocket those closings very, very quickly, because you're just going to win more. You're going to earn more trust, because what we do know is NAR, again, average person interviews 1.5 agents, right? Now they're going to probably meet 10 agents at different properties, okay? There's 5 million, 5.5 million sales. They're going to look at 10 homes. This is all NAR data. We know that when they start looking at homes physically, getting in the car, going to an open house, they're typically going to buy in the next 90 days, and they're going to look at 10 homes, and they're going to pull the trigger on one of those 10. That's why at open houses, you have a chance of 1 in 10 that you're going to sell it, you know, so on and so forth. So something that's really easy, like a quick little trick for you guys, is when you first start meeting with the customer, ask them how many properties that they've looked at in person already. If they said, this is the first, mentally be ready to slow down the conversation and be ready to show them 8 or 10 properties, because we know that that's kind of normal, okay?
Got it.
But if they're already at 8 or 9 and you understand this because you kind of asked that question from the very beginning, now your questions back feel very authentic. It could be like, wow, are you, you know, you've already looked at 9 or 10 homes. Tell me what you didn't like about the other ones. What stopped you from buying any of the other 9 ones? Right now, what I'm doing is I'm lowering their guard. I seem much more actively listening to that particular person. They feel trustworthy. They feel understood. And when they feel understood, they start to trust you. And the more that they trust you, you instantly become that agent that they're going to do business with, because you connected with them on a level that everybody else was very transactional versus kind of relationship, and taking that to the next level. I think we sometimes forget in today's day and age, with all of this online and this digital fortress that's in front of us, right? The screen that keeps us apart from one another, we forget how to connect with people, right?
Yeah, most of us are just
that
looking
skill.
down. We don't even engage eye to eye.
Exactly. Half of the time, you know, it's so sad. You walk through a restaurant and you see families, you know, and everyone at the table is all looking at their phone. It's like, even own families are not taking the time to talk to each other. Or
did you spy on my family last night, or what happened?
Or, you know, the even sadder one, which is 2 or 3 people at the table will be on their phone, and there's one person who's there who's not, and they're completely left out, and everybody else is so unaware of that person, and they're just in their own little world. This is why, you know, people say that Facebook usage actually dramatically increases depression, because they feel alone, because they're not connecting with real people. So for us, we need to reconnect and connect quickly. And that's why that kind of storytelling, continuing their story, the journey that they've already gone down, if you understand that, you can continue it, and it makes it so much easier to ask the right questions and get them to start opening up. Because, you know, there's one thing in sales, like there's a difference between if someone says, are you interested in seeing this house, and you go and show them the house. But the first person that says, hey, why are you interested in buying a home? And they tell you the story like, oh, you know, I'm recently divorced, or my child is autistic, and this school district has got an incredible program for autistic kids, so I really need to get my kid in there. And you can start to relate with that person on that level. Do you think that person wants to tell that story again?
Yeah, I see what you're
right?
saying.
Never. They want to tell that story one time. They want to connect with that person that one time. And that's where the authenticity of, you know, in communication and in listening and in eye connection and everything else, when you connect like that, that person is sold at that moment.
So help me out here, because you run call action. And it's like a lead engagement platform. That's like one of the things that it does, right?
Call tracking, lead tracking, so that you understand where the lead came from. Yeah. So in its most simplistic terms, we help basically sales and marketing to basically scale authentic communication, our conversations.
So with that, how can we as agents take a piece of technology like call action
Mm-hmm.
and help us create some authentic conversations? Is it just tell me how you would suggest we use it?
Yeah, no problem. I think some of the very first things, right? For example, using the phone number, a call action phone number on your yard sign. For us, what ends up happening is we send you a text message immediately before your phone rings. So you already know what is that consumer journey, right? Right when that call is coming in, you already understand, hey, this is a person standing in front of my listing. And for you, that's like a $80,000 phone call because you're in Westlake and it's like
I know.
$1 million property, right? So that $80,000 phone call that you get, you already understand exactly where they're at. You understand, like if you put yourself in their shoes really, really quickly, there's one of two people that are calling. It's a nosy neighbor, so you're kind of ready to go down that narrative or that story. Or basically it's someone driving around who's looking for dream homes and you know they're at the very bottom of the funnel. Your approach with someone that's in that position should be way, way different than any other lead, right? You're not asking them right off the bat, like, hey, are you pre-qualified? And, you know, how long you've been searching for, stuff like that, because you can already understand that if that guy is standing in front of homes, this is either the first or the 10th home that he's looked at, and probably he's already probably been looking for 12 to 18 months. Okay, so it's much easier to connect the dots and jump into that story and have an authentic conversation very, very quickly. You can connect with that person much faster because you can eliminate all of the fluff questions at the beginning of the conversation and go straight to the meat, right?
Okay.
If you know that a lead comes in from any source, you can kind of connect where they or how they got there, and you're just continuing that path or that experience that that person is having. We also do, you know, some text automation and things like that. So one of the things that we try and coach you upon in call action allows you to text images, video, and emojis. You can text MP3 files. So basically like a voice note.
Okay, cool.
And so when you start to reach out in all of these different mediums, right? Different channels. So if I text someone a video that says, hey, it's Jessie, just want to put a name and a face. I know that you're currently looking at homes and driving around. Give me a call whenever you have a chance to call me back, or if you see something else, right? Because that was a lead that came in from a sign call that maybe you missed, or this is a follow-up campaign to that particular person. And then all of a sudden you send them a secondary or a text message, and maybe that text message includes an image, and that image is a snapshot of your reviews. So now what we want to do is we want to convey that I'm here to help you. I'm trying to give you 5-star service. Okay. And I attach that image of that. I'm being authentic in what I'm communicating to them. I'm here to help you. And here's social proof. Here's all of my reviews that I actually do a really good job at helping other people because look at all these reviews that I got. Right? That feels authentic. Okay. If you text a voice note and you start to mix up the communication, the problem with automation is that it's consistent, right? A lot of people's systems, what they'll do is like send a text 1 day later, 3 days later, 4 days later. Well, if that lead, if you sent the first text at 12:42 and your next text is going to go out 3 days later, guess what time it's going to go out at?
What time?
12:42, 3 days later or 4 days later. So if you can't schedule and kind of mix that up, when that person looks at those messages and sees the outreach from you and all of a sudden notices a pattern that, why am I getting the message at the same time every time? Wow, that's not authentic. This is automated.
I put up a question right now. I asked, does tech help agents create more authenticity? And just answer it. There's a few of us on, just click yes or no. I would say my answer is it could go both ways.
Yes.
And I think for someone like me or you, Jessie, I would say, yes, it definitely creates more authenticity because we can respond quicker and create a sense of a quicker communication.
Right.
But for a lot of agents who just kind of plug and play and then hope that it works a certain way, it doesn't create that. What would you say?
No, I 100% agree. I think that what we need to look at is that technology is not meant, our real life conversations are not meant to be replaced by technology. Okay. It's meant to basically give us scale to have more of those conversations. And the problem is that a lot of us look at technology and we go, oh, great, I can talk to less people. But it's the inverse is what we're trying to do, right? What we really are trying to do is automation shouldn't replace your conversations. It should replace all of the work that it takes to get to that conversation. So as an example, if you generate an inquiry of some sort, it normally takes 8 to 10 outbound outreaches before you get a hold of that person.
Got it.
What happens, most of us give off after 1 or 2 attempts. Does that mean that the person is not interested? No. The only thing that it means is that person had intent, sent in an inquiry, and they don't know that you're the one that's calling back. So technically you are a cold call. So this is why it takes 8 to 10 attempts, because if you just do straight cold calling, guess if you make 10 phone calls, how many people you talk to on call night? 2, right?
Yeah,
It's just math. It's just human nature, basically.
I'm gonna pause you really quick.
Yeah.
Because I put up an important question.
Okay.
And I want people to answer it. So if you're listening on your phone, just take a pause, quickly answer it. Can you see the question, Jessie, or no? So I can ask you.
Yeah. No, of course. Anytime.
All right. Here's the question. Do you like Jessie's beard more or my red beanie? That's the question. Please answer it. Take a few seconds just to answer that. And then we can publish the results just to see who wins.
We should have had a t-shirt off today.
Dude, we should, next time, I want you to wear a call action shirt, and then you're going to compete whatever I wear. Today I'm wearing a Millennium Falcon shirt.
For sure.
Just wanted to see. Oh, look, the people are actually voting. If you haven't voted, just jump in. Do you like Jessie's beard more or my red? Let's see what comes up there, dude.
That's funny.
Dude, but look, you, just talking to you as I was listening, I got more ideas on what we should be doing. And one of my daily affirmations is to, when I speak, to try to tell more stories. Because in high school, I belonged to like this speaking club thing. I went to a private Christian school, and they would always tell us, look, create the intro, the body, and the conclusion and all that. But I don't think I ever got into actually telling stories. So I was always kind of like just saying stuff. And so it wasn't until I started speaking in real estate that I started creating stories and examples through those stories. And I've learned that people really engage a lot more, because 4 years later, after doing these presentations, 4 years later, people come up to me and they say, wow, Tristan, I remember that Instagram story you told when you got that prince from Yemen or wherever the hell we got him from. And I'm like, oh, but they don't remember the other stuff. So
no, but that's what they connect on, right? They attach to something basically, and that's how you stand out, you know?
And I think bringing that into real estate, specifically into trying to convert these online leads, these past clients, because, even with past clients, we still have to connect with them again to bring them in.
Right.
Our sphere, open house leads.
Right. The word convert, like in a way, it should be changed to connect.
Ooh.
Right?
Well, then hold on, damn it. Wait, we should also change the word lead to inquiry then.
Yeah, or a contact.
So it should be like the word lead should be changed to contact or inquiry, and then convert should be connect. And I think then we start changing our mindset to look at this more like a relationship.
Exactly, because what happens, the reason why people are cynical towards online leads is they don't associate them as a real person at the other end.
Yeah.
This is why, like if you're using any kind of automation, you want to mix up the mediums and send a video, send a picture of yourself, like, you know, without seeming boastful, but like the little trick that I'm telling you of just sending your reviews to someone that has your picture, shows social proof, and then lets them connect with you as a person. The moment, it's really easy to be mean to someone if you don't know what they look like or connect with them in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Yeah. But just the sheer fact of someone seeing your image, now there's a certain sense of connection. Why is it that we go on Facebook and we have these virtual relationships with people that we've never spoken to? We've never done anything except we've communicated via text, right? What makes that, why do we feel so much more connected through social media than just basically texting back and forth with someone? And I would say it's the fact that I can see images of that person. That creates the connection, right? That imagery that you're able to see where this person is at or where they're traveling to or whatever it might be, it creates a sense of connection in one way or another. And that makes you relatable. And then we can only earn the trust to convert, close the transaction, right? If I've connected with them. So it goes connect, conversation, and closes. That's the flow, basically. You can't get a lead and convert if you didn't have the conversation or you didn't connect with someone. So we need to
kind of like, it's exactly like dating then.
100%. At this event, it was kind of interesting. I saw this thing, and it was a study on the 12 steps of intimacy. Okay.
Wow.
So a biologist broke this down. And so the first step of intimacy is eye to body. That's the very first step of intimacy, because you're judging in our primal nature, right? Is this person attractive to me? Right? That's why we do eye to body. Then we do eye to eye. You make eye contact. Think about this from the dating analogy, right?
Okay.
Then I'm going to go and I'm going to speak to someone, right? Then maybe we'll hold their hands. Then you're going to hold their shoulder, maybe give them a hug. Eventually you give them a kiss. Then you get comfortable enough that you can rub their head, right? And then after that, you know, go straight into the, you know, bow, 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 bow.
What if you try to skip directly to that?
Exactly. But what we're doing in our relationships, we go, hey, you're interested in buying a house? Bow, 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 bow.
We need a special effects person to play that song when you do that.
We skip the entire journey, basically. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be 5 months worth, right? But in human nature, if we skip those steps in a dating thing, what would that be called? Assault.
Right? At some point.
If I walked up to someone and I tried to kiss them on the lips, that is assault, right? Without talking to them, having any of those other things. So just think about that. Like, we're assaulting clients because we're going straight to the close.
We are. Damn it, dude. But, oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah. And that's how they feel, right? I mean, how many times do you feel like if you've bought a car and you've gone to a car lot, do you feel assaulted?
I feel violated sometimes.
Exactly. But why? They skip the dating steps.
I guess because even if it's a different scenario, like purchasing something, in essence, it's the same thing is still happening to you. So it's almost like you're dating without really knowing it.
Yeah.
And that's why you feel violated.
Exactly. And the thing is that human nature, we have a very set in stone, 40, 50,000 years in our core DNA of how we connect with people. And what's happening is we're trying to break that tradition. And this is why, the advent of conversational marketing or chat bots and things like that, like the chat bot, all it's trying to do is ask some questions to start creating some engagement. So making that eye contact, all of those kind of things. You start having the baby exchanges so that you can have a bigger exchange. But the reality is that us as service professionals, what we need to focus on is not eliminating the conversations. We just need to have more of the right conversations at the right time. So if we take a pie chart and you think we have a process that we call ICON, which basically stands for inquiry, conversation, outcome, nurture, and then inquiry again, right? So that's ICON. Okay. You generate an inquiry, you're going to have multiple tasks to get you to the first conversation. At the end of that first conversation, there's an outcome. Yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not, right? And now what I need to do is I need to continue their narrative. I need to continue their story by nurturing that relationship based on what they shared with me and where they're at in the journey, okay? Now, basically, I provide information. So I go from outcome to nurture. And once I nurture enough, they're going to make another inquiry. And then I get to have another conversation. And every rotation around this ICON process, you're building trust, you're building rapport. And what happens, the real estate journey is not linear, okay? One day they're up and they're down and they're all over the place. They're on one site, they're on another site, they're driving around, they're not interested, they're on vacation. The one thing that is linear is time, okay? Because if they made an inquiry today, they will eventually hit their goal of owning a home, okay? What's going to happen is there's lots of little steps. Now, maybe you catch them in that journey in the art phase at the bottom, right? They're on the transactional. Maybe you only need to go through that ICON process and have 10 of those inquiries on 10 different properties. Okay. Or maybe they're so far upstream, they're in the aspirational phase, that maybe you need to go through that ICON journey, inquiry, conversation, outcome, and nurture again. Maybe you got to do it 15 or 20 times. Now, what we need to do is we need to not spend time having unilateral conversation, because that's not conversation. But that's what most of our work is the entire day. Is 80% of your day is doing outreach to try and have a conversation.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. The follow-up, right? That follow-up.
Exactly. But if we eliminate all of that using automation that feels authentic, meaning it's coming from you, it's your voice, it's your face, it's your imagery, that person is going to connect with you with each one of those touch points because you're adding to their journey, right? So they told you, I'm not ready for 3 months from now. Maybe all we need to do is just send a text message every once in a while that is not an ask, but it's a give. It's like, hey, I was thinking about you. Here's this website that shows you all of the school reporting. I don't know if you had this or not, but I know you're probably getting a little bit closer. So I just want to give that to you. You text that to someone, okay? And then guess what you can do on the next text message is then you can make an ask. But you don't ask if they're ready. You ask if the information that you gave was valuable to them, because we need to get the little yeses before we get the big yes, right? So this is nurture, okay, building momentum.
I think what you do, that's actually really good, a really good tactic. So I'll tell you something along the lines that we've created too on the automation part. So with what you're saying, we've done something actually exactly like you said, where we give them school information by text. We send them to, what's that website with the school?
Best schools or something like that, I think.
Something like that. What we do is then maybe like, these are for nurturing long-term leads, okay? One of the other texts that we send is we send them, hey, look, I know who you are and I know about you type thing, but you probably don't know me. So here's a link to my bio. And in my bio, it has like the reviews, which you mentioned, right? And so as we're doing this, besides saying, hey, was this useful, like the school organization or whatever we're sending, we're also asking, hey, look, am I sending you too much stuff? Am I spamming you? Because I'm also looking for a no, right?
Right.
So, and I think that combo of both has been really good for us for that authenticity part. Because there are people who will tell us, you know what, take us off your list. And I'm like, oh, no problem.
Right.
But there are others who will say, you know what, keep on sending it to us. It's good. No, you're not spamming us. One of my automated texts is, am I spamming you? Right.
Right. Or do you have the feeling that I'm spamming you?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to do that.
Right.
One guy said in response to that, he said, please keep spamming. And I laughed. I go, LOL, that was the best response ever. So I thought
that feels authentic, and it feels like you're listening, like you're caring, right? That you are actually proactive behind this and really keying in on what the customer experience is at the other end. And that in itself earns that same level of respect, you know? But the idea with the baby yeses, like if all of you have gone to some kind of, you know, motivational training from some coach, there's a reason why they go, you know, does everyone agree? Say yes. Right. And then everyone in the crowd goes, yeah, I know. And then you do that like 50 times throughout the seminar because he's asking you open-ended questions during the seminar, because he gets you pre-framed in your mind to basically say yes when he comes to make the big ask, which is buy my whatever, X, right?
Yep.
That's the pattern of really sophisticated marketing is, you know, get the baby yeses, get that little journey kind of going. And that understanding that question, asking the right questions, and then telling those questions back to the customer so that they know that you are understanding and they are feeling understood. Perfect. Is critical, because that's what builds trust.
I agree, dude. I agree. Nice. So anything you want to end with?
No, I mean, I think, you know, the market is changing, and I would tell most people this: automation is great, but it does not replace you. What automation should do is take away the tedious work, not replace you, okay? And I'll give you an example. A car, for sake of conversation, may get built by robots, right? Because that's the tedious part. Yep. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But who designs the car? A robot doesn't design the car, right? That's still a person. That's the human element of what we do. And we need to be very careful, because we're hiding behind technology so much that when people reach out, they're not able to get a hold of us. So what happens is that we're dehumanizing ourselves. That's why they don't treat us with respect, right? Is that we're actually dehumanizing ourselves, because if we reach out and we truly connect with that person that first time, that's going to be memorable, because everybody else is trying to avoid to talk to them. So I think going forward, there's a few things that are happening, some trends that I think we're seeing that are kind of taking place.
Shoot.
Number one, people are getting more and more apprehensive of providing information online.
Yep.
Okay. And part of that, there's two reasons. A is because most traffic now is mobile, right? So filling out forms on mobile is counterintuitive, right? It's painful. Like if 60% of traffic is on a mobile device, do you enjoy trying to fill out, you know, Tristan, Ahumada, your name, your phone number, your email, and all of that stuff?
No way, dude.
Okay? The second thing, the second trend that I think is kind of happening is there's lots of talk around privacy and data breaches.
Yeah, a lot.
So because of that, people are more apprehensive of giving their stuff online. The third part of that is that websites are getting better at producing content that answers almost all of the questions, okay?
All right.
So if you think of it in that point of view, and we think of that art funnel, and let's say they go from aspirational to research to transactional, they've done that entire journey without talking to anybody,
What happens then?
What happens then? There's one event that's going to take place, and that person is going to basically call you when their sense of urgency is at the highest of them all. And why did we even put out a lead form to begin with? What's the goal of the lead form? To get their phone number so that I can have a conversation with them.
Yep, that's it.
Right? So if we remove the form, we just put a big button on the website that says call now, and you know where that call is coming from, that the only way that that person is clicking on that button is because they're on your website. You understand their intent. We basically capture that phone number. You've already opened up the conversation. That is a much, much better experience. This is why like live chat on websites does so well, right? Is that we removed all the friction. I can have the conversation before I give you the information.
Got it. So you're saying that, and I can actually see that now, with millennials and the younger generation that's coming up, that's going to be a more prevalent thing than it is now.
Correct. Because, you know, the stats on the number of people that hit the click to call button is massive. It's going to be something like 200 billion click to calls in the next year. Okay. Because in search results, what's that button that's there? Like if I want to go to a restaurant, I want to go to a store, I'm calling a car dealership or any of those things. Do I fill out a form to find out what their business hours are?
No.
I hit the click to call button because I have a high sense of urgency. I'm trying to accomplish my goal. I've already collected all the information, done all the research. I am ready at that moment. So the timeline where we come into the picture is much more at the bottom of the funnel. And I'm going to suggest that as time progresses, it's going to be the bottom of the funnel. Like it is going to be, I'm buying this house right now and I'm going to call agents until I get a hold of someone. And I'll paint a very clear story here. I'm a consumer, or you know a consumer, okay? They use their cell phone. They get an email alert on a Thursday night, new listings in Westlake Village. So what happens? They take their phone and they drive to Westlake Village because they're probably moving 10 to 12 miles away from their current residence. So they're going and exploring new neighborhoods because that's what they're buying first is the neighborhood, places that they don't know. And they're going to start driving around, right? Then they're going to see a home that they like, or maybe they took out the Zillow app or Redfin or Realtor.com or KW or any app. It doesn't matter what it is, but they're going to find properties using that app. And then they're going to get to the front of the property. And then they're going to take out that app and they're going to look at the pictures. They're going to swipe left, swipe right, read the school description, hit the mortgage calculator, learn all of those kind of things while they're standing in front of the property at that moment in time. And they go, you know what? This is pretty nice. I can see the picture, but I need to feel the floor plan. I don't know what the flow, because pictures don't convey the flow of an inside of a house. Doesn't convey the sounds that you're going to hear, or is the lighting that that property is going to get. So we need to go, fundamentally as humans, we need to go into that space to feel it. Okay. So what they understand is that the path of least resistance to get inside of that home is to call the sign first, right? Because if you buy Zillow leads, what does the person ask you when you're a Zillow lead? Are you the listing agent?
Are you the listing agent all the time? Yeah.
Right, because that's the path of least resistance. But if they're standing in front of the property, they pick up the phone, they make the phone call. Now, what's going to happen at that moment in time is they're going to let it ring 3-4 times maybe. You don't answer, they hang up, because they're not going to leave a voicemail. So people tell us all of the time, I don't get calls. I have the data to prove it. You don't get voicemails is what you don't get. Yeah. And if you don't answer the call, because 50% of calls are spam calls anyway, we're fighting against each other. So this is why the phone numbers kind of become important, understanding where that person is in the journey, where their intent is, where that lead is coming from.
Okay.
Okay. So now what ends up happening basically is I'm able to connect with that person right on the bot, because their sense of urgency is maximum at that point in time, right? Their heart rate goes up. They get a little bit excited, like, hey, this might be the one. And guess what their friends have been telling them for the last 18 months? If you find a home you love, you better jump on it quick. Coaching them to basically say, move on quickly, okay? I'll change the scenario. This is why, like, if you don't answer, then what do? They hit the call button on whatever app that they're already looking at.
Yep.
And now, in today's day and age, if you're a real estate agent, you're buying back your own inquiries from your own signage because you didn't answer the call and it's costing you $200 to $500 per call.
Dude, I'm looking.
That doesn't make sense. Now, if I needed a plumber because my stuff is overflowing, am I going to do a Google search, find basically some local plumber, fill out a form and wait for the contact back? Or am I going to hit the click to call button because I have a high sense of urgency?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So when I go on to the Redfin app, which I'm taking a look at it right now.
Yep.
I'm on the Redfin app because I think Redfin's got the whole process
down
pretty well. And I'm taking a look at a home in Palos Verdes here for $4 million. I'm scrolling through it and I see at the very bottom as I'm scrolling, it just schedule a tour. So I click on it and then it gives me days. Kind of like if I have a problem with my iPhone, it's saying, hey, you know what day do you want to come in and what time?
Right.
And then it says next. So what happens?
Continuing the journey.
They're taking you through the process, but you're saying there should also be, and I agree with you, there should also be a button that says call now.
Yeah, I think there should definitely be a call now button. Anyone that buys Zillow leads, do yourself a favor, learn how to read the reports in Zillow, and what you'll find is 30% of Zillow leads are actually phone calls. Now, is that a better lead than basically an email lead?
Hell yeah.
Okay, but up until 2 months ago, that call, you didn't even know that you were getting a call from Zillow because Zillow wasn't doing anything with that data because they would show it in the Premier Agent app and you can see it in the report, but you get the real caller ID of the person that's calling in, so you have no clue. So agents were throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of leads and inquiries because they didn't even know that they were getting that call because they weren't answering. And when you don't answer and you try and call back, guess what you are? A cold call back to the person who just called you because they don't know your caller ID.
So you're telling me that our websites should have this call now button on there?
100%.
Damn you. Now I have to fix that.
Super easy. I'll give you the code. It's super, super easy to set that. But all that I'm saying is think of it from this point of view too. All of the marketing that you do.
Yep.
What are the primary ways that people can respond to your marketing?
Well, they can message you, call you, email you. I guess it's limited, right?
Right. So you just name 3, right? Email, message, okay, call or text.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So out of those 3, which one are we really good at tracking?
You guys or agents?
No, just agents, the industry. What's the only one we track? The messages.
Yeah, the messages there. It's hard to track the calls unless you have like a tracking call number like yours.
Right, exactly. But out of those 3 primary forms of communication, right, 66% of them are related to phone calls. It's also the highest intent lead. We put all of our focus on trying to get an email lead when if we just put a call now button, like you captured the phone number, which is the goal of why you're putting the form in front of them in the first place. So remove the friction and let them call us. Now, I'm not saying that plaster your personal phone number all over the place. This is a very big difference here and people don't relate to this. You don't need to answer every call. You need to answer the right phone call. The one that you know where it's coming from, that person, you understand what their journey is at the other end, where their intent is. This was the beauty of the internet to begin with, is that I can track exactly what form did that person fill out, what keywords did he put in to get there, and all of that stuff. We do everything possible to track all of that so that we can get him to fill out a form and hopefully give us the real phone number. And then we got to do a bunch of outbound outreach to try and get a hold of them on the phone. We get burnt out. And think about that. Like if we just put a big button that said call now and we captured the call, didn't we just exactly accomplish? We removed all of that friction, all of that work, all of that expense, all of that maintenance. We made it really, really easy for that person.
Dude, I'd like to test that out to see.
Yeah, and when someone calls you and you connect with them, right? Half of connection is your intonation, your cadence, how you sound on the phone. Like that person is connecting with that in itself without even seeing you. The connection of voice is so much stronger than the written word, basically, because the written word could be misconstrued. Because let's say someone texts the word stop, right? Now there's a big difference between stop or stop.
Yeah, very true.
Same word, right? Whole different meaning.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So we need to get back into those conversations to reconnect, because if we don't connect, we don't have conversations and we can't close. And that's the reality, is we need to continue that journey, because that's what's going to happen anyway. No home has been sold via email without meeting that person or having at least one phone call.
Got it. All right. So dude, I'm thinking as we shift more into this world of that happening, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of what you're talking about be more.
AI and all of that stuff. You have to think that websites are getting better. Content is king. So what happens, we keep providing more and more value, educating the customer more and more and more. So we're compressing the entire cycle so that they only need to reach out at the moment of decision. And this is a zero-sum game, right? You have one opportunity at that moment in time, because you are one button away from the next person down the buttons.
Got it.
You have to understand that if I send out an inquiry, I already know. So it's the same reason why people don't leave voicemails anymore. They know that most people don't listen to the voicemail and they never get a response back. So that's why they don't fill out the form as much anymore, because they know that half the time they're not going to get a response back. So we're training them. And now what we're doing is we're putting ISAs and chatbots and third-party services in front of us to try and have those communications. So when they reach back out, they're talking to someone that's still not related to you. We keep distancing ourselves from the transaction versus trying to basically protect what is sacred to us, which is that relationship, right?
Got it. Got it.
So we just need to connect more. And that conversational marketing, that's going to be a really massive term going forward, this idea of conversational marketing, because it's not about direct response and just getting something. It's about giving to create a conversation. And if you give, then you can basically start that conversation, and then you can make the ask. Because that's how you earn the trust. You earn the trust by giving, by sharing,
Got it.
by being authentic and making yourself seem real.
Dude.
Why do we love reality TV? Because it seems real, right? Even though we know it's not. But why do we like Gary Vee's videos in his car? Because it's in the moment, it's passion, doesn't seem rehearsed, although it might be. But why do we like Facebook Live so much? Because we want to see how the story is going to unfold. We get sucked in.
I like the live aspect about it. The more like the impromptu type thing. I love that.
But that's authenticity again.
Yeah. Interesting.
Right? It's all of this is all authenticity.
Dude, this is such a deeper conversation than we've had.
Yeah. You have to think of things that are really, really high level, because what we do, if we look at it by just the lowest level task, you know, it's really easy to get to develop bad bedside manners as professionals.
Yeah,
right?
I see what you're saying.
Because we don't become empathetic to what the journey is of that person to get there. But when you start to understand what their journey is to get there, then you can relate to that significantly more. If you took your daughter to, you know, the doctor because they were sick, and that doctor had bad bedside manners, like, and not bad in terms of they were rude, but maybe they just didn't seem like they were caring. And it's just a matter of perception. It could be just the same questions, the way that they're delivered, the way that they look at you when they ask you those questions, or the pauses and everything else. Human communication is what we need, right?
Yeah.
And if we keep hiding behind text in terms of pure text and never connecting as a person, or trying to connect with them as quickly as possible so that we can learn their story, and they can open up, and we can be empathetic, and we can show our emotional IQ, then we're not going to win, and we are going to automate ourselves out of the business. Because we do business with people we know, like, and trust.
Are you sure about that?
You can only know, like, and trust someone if you have conversations with them.
All right. I agree with you. There are some people that tell us that you don't necessarily need to like someone to work with them. I agree with you, but
yeah, I 100% agree that, you know, depending on the level of the transaction, because what happens in real estate, they don't necessarily need to like you if they have a really high sense of urgency because they have been treated poorly. The lead that you got is a lead that somebody else lost, because 100% sure those 100 million inquiries, you don't think all of those people told a friend that they were thinking about buying a house, and they were probably referred to their real estate agent friend who forgot about them or didn't connect with them or whatever it might be, right? We have to just think that those are just all lost opportunities. Leads are somebody else's lost opportunities. That's all it is. There's not 100 million people that want to buy homes. Okay, there's 8% of the US population that moves every year. And that's it. There's only 5 million transactions. So if we do the math in reverse, 5 million, 5.5 million transactions,
yep.
we know that the average person looks at 10 homes. That's 55 million inquiries right off the bat, right?
Dude.
Because the consumer only interviews one agent, or quote unquote, that one agent that they interview is the person that they write the offer with, right? And it's because they showed up, they had a high sense of urgency, and they just write the offer first person that opens the door. Let's ask that as a question in the group. How many times have you written an offer on a piece of property the first time that you met that person? At the open house, you opened the door, they said, I love it, let's write the deal. And I will guarantee you that there's going to be multiple people in this group that's going to say it happens at least once to twice a year. Now, a lot of people only sell 10 homes. So 10% of their transactions are these like right place at the right moment, high sense of urgency. Let's just get it done, right? Because they don't understand the perceived value of the agent. But if you connected on that first conversation, that person doesn't inquire with other people. They go back to you. This is when you start getting the text messages that come back to you that is a screenshot of all of the properties that they're interested in. And you can just interpret it like, oh, that guy wants to set an appointment for that one. So let's get on it. Let's try and book the appointment, right? Don't you love when you start getting text messages from, you know, images of properties on other people's websites and they're sending them to you? That's because that person connected with them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we need to focus on.
That's true, dude. I agree with you. You know what? We had the poll about your beard or my beanie, and I won. I beat you.
So next time, I'm going to wear a red beanie and have a beard.
Oh, dude, then you'll win for sure. Oh, that's so funny. But dude, this was a pretty insane webinar. A lot of details, a lot of great information.
A lot of higher thinking stuff, getting really into the meat of what we're trying to do and connecting with people, because that's what it really comes down to. We have to have those conversations, and it has to come from you. That's why they inquired with you. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree heavily with you, man. So, you want to give a pitch to Call Action? By the way,
if you are serious about having authentic conversations, like to be able to track those phone calls, you can visit callaction.co.
Wait, it's callaction.co, right? Co.co.
Callaction.co. And there's a little chat button in the bottom right-hand corner. And if you want to connect for conversation, I'd be happy to help you guys out.
Wait. Is there a call button on your website?
All of the phone numbers are clickable. Yes.
Dude, now you need to put a big green call button, like call now.
Yep.
On Call Action.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, dude, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do one again in the next 30 days, because this was great.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tristan. And again, appreciate everything that you guys do. And Lab Coats provides so much value to, 90,000 agents that, have launched probably a ton of their careers. And, it's a constant learning resource for them.
True.
And, if I could share anything right now, let's just keep those conversations high level. Let's not be childish. Let's just basically focus on developing real businesses here, because you're all business owners, and we need to start acting and thinking like business owners. And we're at a really weird time in our history right now, just around the board. So let's try and basically rise above, and let's have really smart conversations and bring back the lab and the Lab Coats, basically. Right.
Oh, I like that, dude. I like it. And look, if you want to really look into some well-written articles about your business, go to labcoatagents.com. So
for sure. No, that's your deep dives, basically. It's these webinars chunked into basically text. So 100%. So.
Dude, and while I have you on here, we're doing a webinar a day next for March.
Oh wow! Like March Madness.
Yeah, March Madness. That's what brought it about. If you want to co-host any of those, look at the list.
Okay.
And let me know. Or if you want to host them on your own, just let me know who you want to.
Okay.
We're gonna have Steve Passanelli on one of them, and
nice.
Steve pretty well.
Another person who's all about authenticity and connecting, right? This is the whole premise of BombBomb and video, basically, is to connect, to humanize who you are. It's the same exact thing, Yeah,
dude. So check it out and see which one you want to co-host. You do amazing.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Maybe I'll try and find an outside host we can bring in too, like outside of industry. They can maybe share some insights with us.
I like that.
I'll reach through my network of friends and see what we can do there. So
thanks, bro.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you very much, guys. You have a great day, and go out there and have conversations and take the time to slow down and connect with those people in this fast-paced world. So we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks,
again, thank you.